Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to my SmackDown review. Also going to review the Mixed Match Challenge. And yes, this is the second upload today. If you haven't checked out my previous video, I uploaded it earlier. My Raw review, which I didn't get to upload last night, but I uploaded the video today, did it earlier today. So if you haven't seen or checked out my Raw review, definitely go check it out. And tonight's SmackDown was held from Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. And of course, this was SmackDown's Go Home show, for Evolution, which is this Sunday. And I gotta say, tonight's SmackDown, this wasn't a good show tonight. Wasn't great. Wasn't a good show. I'd say, Raw was a much better show last night. And, just SmackDown, it was just, SmackDown just fell flat tonight, in my opinion. So let's get started with the review. And SmackDown opened up tonight with the New Day coming out. And Xavier says, Xavier Woods says last week they were cheated and defeated by the Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus, for their tag team championships. And Kofi Kingston says, they didn't set the bar, the Bar didn't set the bar, they lowered the bar, and that they took advantage of the situation. And Xavier says, does the Big Show make him, bartender, for, Cesaro and Sheamus? And Big E says to, the Big Show, he thought that, he was cool. And he goes on to say, he flips back and forth like a flapjack, which is true, because how many times have we seen, the Big Show go from a babyface to a heel, back to a babyface, back to a heel? It's making sense. Big E's making sense with the Big Show, going from babyface to heel 1,000 times. So, but Kofi Kingston says tonight, somebody is getting that work, whether it's Cesaro, Sheamus, or Big Show. And so Cesaro and Sheamus end up coming out, and then the Big Show, and then eventually led to a match. They were debating, Cesaro, Sheamus, and Big Show were debating who was going to take on Kofi Kingston in the match. First, we all thought that was Sheamus, and then Sheamus was like, no, let Cesaro, is going to be in it, but Cesaro was like, no. And then it ended up being the Big Show. So we ended up getting the match, Kofi Kingston versus the Big Show. This was a pretty boring match, in my opinion. It was just Big Show, chopping away at Kofi Kingston. Just laying out Kofi Kingston. The match ended in a double disqualification, which led to a draw, because Xavier Woods and Big E ended up coming in to help Kofi. Then Cesaro and Sheamus end up coming in, take it down, Xavier Woods and Big E. Led to Big Show choke slamming Big E. And Big Show then ended up hitting the KO punch to Xavier Woods, because Cesaro and Sheamus ended up holding Xavier and let Big Show to hit the KO punch. And then Big Show ended up choke slamming Xavier, and that's how it ended. Well, the match itself was pretty boring. It was a boring match, in my opinion. Then you had the Usos, a rematch from last week from SmackDown 1000. It was the Usos versus AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan once again. Tag team match. Same thing from what we saw last week. And the match itself, it wasn't a bad match. It was decent. It was entertaining. The wrestling and the match was pretty decent, pretty good. Usos were entertaining. Same for Styles and Daniel Bryan. And at the end of the match, you had Styles go for the phenomenal forearm to one of the Usos, and one of the Usos, gets out of the way. Styles almost took out Daniel Bryan with the phenomenal forearm. Led to Styles because Daniel Bryan was holding one of the Usos, and it led to Styles trying to hit the Pele kick, but one of the Usos ducked out of the way, and Daniel Bryan ended up taking that Pele kick, and it led to the Usos getting the advantage of the end of the match, and Jimmy Uso then ended up hitting a diving splash on AJ Styles to score the win, and so the Usos win again. Same as last week. Usos won last week also. So it's twice now that the Usos beaten Styles and Daniel Bryan. So, but all in all, it was a decent match. Wasn't that bad of a match. And then we had AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan. They were being interviewed backstage. Styles says, it was an accident, what, Daniel Bryan did. And then Daniel says, he has respect for, Styles. Sorry about that, but I was saying, Daniel Bryan says, he has respect for Styles, and that, what happened out there was an accident. And Daniel was like to Styles, looks like your nose is growing. And, Styles was like, oh, you mean like, Pinocchio? And then, he says, Daniel says he is convinced, it was an accident. And he was like, so Daniel Bryan was like, pointing his finger. And then he did the too sweet. And Daniel Bryan was like, oh, is that how you do it? And Styles was like, yes. And then Styles just ended up walking off. So that was the interview with Styles and Daniel Bryan. And then after that, we went to the footage of what happened at the Performance Center, where over the weekend, there was a mishap. There was a crazy thing that happened between Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch at the Performance Center. And we got footage of that tonight where it showed Charlotte was talking with the new recruits there, who sometime in the future will become WWE superstars. She was talking to women, so future woman who could be a part of the going to be part of the women's division. And Charlotte was just talking about how she started. She ends up telling these women how she started, and what these women are to expect as their future goes on, to try to make it to the main roster, make it to NXT first and then make it to the main roster. So, and then we get Becky Lynch coming, and she ends up saying, oh, don't listen to a word Charlotte says, and don't make friends with anybody. And then we see a brawl happen between both Charlotte and Becky Lynch. And so, both of them had to be pulled away. Then after we saw that footage, Charlotte ends up cutting a promo saying, to Becky Lynch that, after all of the attacks, and she ends up saying what she did at the Performance Center was uncalled for. And she says, Becky changed. And at Evolution, when Charlotte wins back the title, she will be standing over a friend who lost her way. And so that was the promo that Charlotte cut after we saw that footage of what happened at the Performance Center. Then we had Rusev and Aiden English. This match wasn't that good. Wasn't a great match. But it was back and forth between Rusev and Aiden. Rusev ended up getting the upper hand at the beginning of the match. And, we had Lana end up taking one of her shoes and throwing it at Aiden, and that kind of distracted him. And then Rusev came with the Machka kick. Then Rusev ended up winning the match, ended up applying the accolade on Aiden English to score the win. So it wasn't that great of a match. It was a short match. Then we had the Miz come out for Miz TV. He ends up saying a week ago, the world celebrated Smackdown 1000. He talks about how Evolution reunited, how he defeated Rusev to enter the World Cup tournament at Crown Jewel, and ends up talking about how Rey Mysterio returned to defeat Shinsuke Nakamura to enter the World Cup tournament. And so that was his guest on Miz TV. It was Rey Mysterio. So he ended up coming out. He ended up saying, "It feels so good to be back home." Back home on SmackDown, where he always was. And Miz ends up telling him, "Oh, that wasn't a question." And he's here to show the little man. He's here to show that, the little man can be big things, and that he's going to Crown Jewel, which he was talking about. Rey Mysterio. And Miz says to Mysterio how 90s of him, because that's what he said. And he ends up saying, that people are interested in larger than life superstars like him, like the Miz, which got boos from the crowd. And Miz says, when Rey Mysterio was on hiatus, he was being the most must-see superstar of all time, and he is the multi-time of WWE. And he goes on to say that at Crown Jewel, he will win and move on to the finals, whoever Raw has, and beat them, so he can make people see that he will be the best in the world. And so Rey Mysterio answers back and says, that he is very disappointed because he thought he was being booked on Truth TV, which Miz was like, "Oh, Truth TV." He was like to Mysterio, "Is this a joke? Do you want a dance break?" And he ends up saying that last week the Truth TV was, an illegal broadcast. And he says to Mysterio that if he doesn't watch it, Miz will cancel his appearance right now. So Mysterio says he didn't come back to be on some dusty talk show, but to compete. And he says to the Miz, if he has nothing else to say, he wants to throw down right now, meaning have a match with the Miz. And Miz goes to say, "Oh, no one wants to see me fight. no one wants to see me fight you. And it's not going to happen. And so then Miz ends up kicking Mysterio, beating him down. Rey ends up coming back. Attempts to hit the 619 on the Miz, but Miz ends up retreating out of the ring. And that pretty much ended the other segment. But it was okay. It was okay Miz TV. Okay Miz TV segment with Mysterio. Then we had the match, Rey Mysterio versus The Miz, which was a decent match. Was back and forth between Mysterio and The Miz. Mysterio, very enjoyable in the match. And in the end, Mysterio ended up hitting the 619 on The Miz, and then a dive-in splash also on The Miz to score the win. And so Rey Mysterio ends up winning the match. But it was a decent match. Like I said, I really enjoyed Rey Mysterio in this match. And then we were supposed to get Asuka and Naomi versus Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. But eventually it didn't end up happening because, first off, the Iconics end up coming out. They say, what's exciting about Newark? And she's like, and they were like, oh, they will make history by winning the Battle Royal at Evolution on Sunday. And it will be iconic. So Lana ends up coming out. Then Carmella ends up coming out, the birthday girl, Carmella. Today is her birthday. So she ends up coming out, and she ends up saying, what Jersey really wants is a dance break. And then, we had a brawl ensue in the ring. So pretty much basically it was just, we were just getting a preview of what to see in the Battle Royal on Sunday. At Evolution. So the match never really got in the way with Asuka, Naomi, and Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. So, but originally it was supposed to be Naomi and Mandy Rose, but WWE.com exclusive videos said Mandy Rose wanted it to be a tag team match. But never got underway because of the brawl with the woman. And then we had Shane McMahon coming out saying that there are a lot of firsts happening in WWE. He talks about how Evolution is this Sunday. Talks about another first in the WWE, which is the World Cup tournament, which is the World Cup tournament. To determine who will be, the best in the world. And the crowd was chanting, CM Punk. And Shane was like, he's not in the tournament. which was funny. And he says, there is an immense amount of talent competing in the World Cup. And someone from the Blue brand might be the best in the world. He was saying, could it be Jeff Hardy? Could it be The Miz? Could it be Rey Mysterio? Or could it be Randy Orton? And so then, the main event got on the way. That's all what Shane did. It was kind of a waste, in my opinion, that Shane had to come out. I was like, why was he there? I know he's a SmackDown commissioner, but they just brought him out to say that. So, but then we had the main event. Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy. New in their rivalry. The last time they fought was back at Hell in a Cell. In their Hell in a Cell match, which was a really good match. A very brutal match. But they renewed their rivalry tonight with this main event. It was a decent main event. It was back and forth between them. Yeah, once again, Orton, pulling on Jeff Hardy's earlobe. Randy Orton likes that. Likes that Jeff Hardy, earlobe thing, so he could pull it. But in the end, Randy Orton ended up getting the win. RKO to Jeff Hardy. So Randy Orton wins. All in all, it was a decent main event between Orton and Jeff Hardy. And now on to the mixed match challenge. This was a decent mixed match challenge this week. So we had the first match on the Raw side. It was Finn Balor and Bayley versus Bobby Roode and Natalya. And this was a decent match. This was a fun match. At one point in the match, you had Balor and Bobby Roode, standing each other down. Finn Balor ended up putting on Bobby Roode's robe. Roode ended up putting on Balor's jacket, the black leather jacket, and Bobby Roode was doing Too Sweet to Balor, and then Balor ended up doing the Glorious, which was pretty funny. And the match got underway there. But at the end of the match, Finn Balor and Bayley ended up winning the match. Balor ended up hitting the coup de grace on Bobby Roode to score the win. So Finn Balor and Bayley ended up winning the match. But it was a decent match between them. It was fun. These mixed match challenges are, very fun. And it was announced for next week on the Raw side. It's going to be Braun Strowman and Ember Moon versus Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox. So we know right there, Strowman and Ember Moon are going to win. So then for the SmackDown side, we had The Miz and Asuka versus Jimmy Uso and Naomi. Another decent match, another fun match. You had at the beginning, Asuka, the crowd was cheering for Asuka. The Miz tricked the crowd because some cheered, and then they ended up booing, and then Miz was like, gotcha. And then that's when that's when Jimmy Uso ended up coming out, and Naomi came out after. And in the match you had Asuka, Naomi, going at they're a tag team, and they were hugging each other, and then that really made the Miz mad because he was like, "There's no hugging in wrestling," and so Jimmy Uso was like, "Oh, let's hug," So and then Miz was like, "Asuka," because he was mad that that happened. But it was back and forth between the Miz and Jimmy Uso in the match. He had at one point where the Miz was like, "Oh, I'm tired of this. I'm leaving," and so that's when Jimmy Uso ended up coming out, threw Miz back into the ring, and then at the end of the match, the Miz and Asuka ended up picking up the win. Miz ended up hitting the skull crushing finale on Jimmy Uso. So the Miz and Asuka win it. But it was a decent match. It was a fun match. And so next week on the SmackDown side, it's going to be Rusev and Lana versus Charlotte and AJ Styles. So that's happening next week. So yeah, so overall it was a decent mixed match challenge. I'm really liking these. These are very fun. These mixed match challenges every week. So, yeah. So, anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's SmackDown and also the Mixed Match Challenge. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all back here tomorrow night for my Lucha Underground review. So until then, I'll see you all tomorrow night. Bye.